So you want to go all the way to the gutter, which you kind of do, and the pavement is a little rough on that left side, so I would say you made the right call. And you're doing 500 watts, which is probably right, and then the only thing I would do is you're doing a seated sprint.
Yeah.
So
you should tell people that this whole thing is seated for me.
Yeah, so the only thing you can do, you're still over 1,000 watts, so what you want to do is right now get up out of the saddle and do 5 seconds. It might not, I mean, who knows, but I would say fixing that glass corner and kind of just cutting off a foot or two by staying left in the final sprint would have been even closer.
Oh, great, Pete. I learned a lot. Thank you very much.
Yeah, for sure.
So right now we're almost, this last corner is weird because there's no, it's not a corner, it's just like a bend.
Yeah.
But I like my position right now for the sprint.
So you're about sixth wheel with one guy still off the front, right?
No, I think he's caught. We'll see in a second. People are winding up already. This is like the longest sprint ever.
So all these 4 guys sprinting in front of you, that's perfect. Now you just follow these wheels up, and now it's time to uncork your sprint.
We'll review here in a second, but it's just, I was so far back. It seemed like, at least.
Yeah, it's a lot of ground to cover.
I started seated, and then I got up to sprint. But it seemed like slow motion. And I got second. Shoot. Again.
So there's one last turn, and then it's probably 300 meters from the last turn, or 400 meters from the last turn. So this is where you're bridging up to him. What are you thinking?
I'm thinking right here, I'm like, ooh, I've got him. I don't want to catch him too soon.
Yep.
But I don't want to catch him too late.
Yep.
And I really kind of, I'm looking for him if he's going to look back at me, because if he looks back, I'm expecting acceleration, so I better be able to accelerate.
Yep, exactly. And pretty much in a situation like this, you want to pass this guy in front of you when you are winning the race. So for Nate, that's a long sprint, so maybe like a 30-second all-out. So he just saw you, right?
Yep.
And did he up the pace?
I think he maybe tried a little bit, but I also had a good kick here of 800 watts.
Mm-hmm.
But that's when he should have got as hard as he could from then on, right?
Yep, exactly. And so this is where you catch him.
Yep. Now I'm on, and the sprint's just, we're gonna go down one hill and then go up. So now I'm like, you've got this.
Yep. And yeah, he made the decision that he's just going to pedal hard to the finish and take what he can get.
Lead me out.
The one thing I probably would have gone to the right on that, just in case he could have boxed you out into the grass, but it looked like he had pretty much given up. I think you had a safe bet going that side. Normally, if there's multiple riders, always air for the side where there's open road.
Okay, good tip.
But nice job.
Thank you, I won. Yes.
And as you get closer to the race, to the end of the race, you have to start making the call when you're going to go to beat them also. So what are you thinking, just sprint when you half a lap?
Yeah, something like that. I even thought about going here, but if I was from behind, I would have gone earlier. But because I was like this, I thought that maybe because they're juniors and they have less gears, that the straightaway sprint will be better for me. I'm not sure.
Yeah, and really with Nate's power profile, you just want to go as hard as you can for the last 40 seconds of the race. So one of the things you can do is kind of mark out where your strength is on this course. That's probably like 2/3 of a lap.
I go right here out of the corner.
And you just go straight out of the corner, which is nice because they weren't necessarily coming around you, and all they have to do is make up those 3 bike lengths and like in the sprint, which is hard to do.
My bike doesn't shift right here. You see my power drop for a second. It was scary. It got caught between 2 gears and it like touched. But so I ended up crossing the finish line first, but I didn't actually win because earlier in the race, my front GoPro camera was coming off with my Garmin connected together, and I stopped in the pits to tighten that. And that is not a, what do they call it?
Like a valid mechanical.
Yep, it's not a valid mechanical. So I let the field I want to be at the very back, and what I want to do is I'm trying to sprint into the field to get a draft and pass them, and actually start sprinting outside, and I was like, oh, I forgot. Go back in. You see, I try to sprint right into his wheel and then come around wide so that I'm coming by at 33, 34 miles per hour, and they're going 24.
Yep. And so that's pretty much exactly 1 lap to go, right?
Yeah, and there's no rear camera. I'm so sorry because I literally had like 25 seconds to get in this race. I swapped the battery as all I could, but they were chasing, and but they actually gave up chasing about halfway through this last stretch. Why do you think that is, Pete?
So someone has to ruin their race to catch you. And so since the field is small, no one really is going to throw everything down unless they have a teammate who's going to sprint. But even that, it's really hard. You came past them going that much faster at the end of the race. It's just you did it exactly right, where there's nothing they can do unless someone was really going to go all in and have a sprinter on their wheel and hopefully catch you right at the end.
Yeah, and this is a nice way to race if you can do it. It's all about that surprise, though, because I could have easily have pulled the whole field a lot of this race and got out sprinted.
Or jumped from fifth wheel and had everybody on your wheel, right? Like, so as you're coming into the finish, give it one more sprint. Can you, when you look behind, are they close?
No, I look behind. I don't think I really saw them, so I start to ease up a little bit. But
yeah,
it's a really short video. Now I can't use this tactic in a race. Thanks, Pete.
Yeah, sorry about that.
But I got my upgrade points, so now I'm a 3.
Yeah, nice job.
Thank you. And then up here, I'm yelling. What I want as a yell blocks you by, which I want you to do is just keep your line. That's what I meant of it, because I don't want you to try to swing off to the side or anything. I want people to have to go around you.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're passing 2 people as you go around, so all 3 of you guys cause problems for everybody behind Nate.
Yeah.
And it causes just that little bit of indecision. And
right there, once you caught that guy, I think you only have 1 left. Is that right? Or do you have 2 riders?
I think I
up
have
the road?
two riders left. Yeah.
Kind of exciting not seeing the front.
Yeah.
So this is the last turn.
Yep. The long straightaway with the crosswind.
Kind of a crosshead almost at this point. It was stiff.
Just one rider. It's David Sweet, who's very strong. I caught him right before the line. Poor Sweet. He was out there a long time too.
He rode a very hard race.
Yeah. There he is. I think he still gets catch a second. But just an example of going from a long distance in a headwind can be a good strategy.
And teamwork.
yeah, hard going into hard always does a good job.
True story. Nice job, Nate.
Nice job, Nate.
Thank you, Jonathan. My first Cat 3 race, and I won.
That's a lot of fun to race that way as a team.
Now the problem is there's like a minute left in the race, 45 seconds or something, and you're closing down gaps in the last minute of the race just to get back onto the group.
I know. So if I was on the group, and there's a little downhill section here, this is also where I made a huge mistake, as I didn't get right on. I leave this like 2 bike length gap because I am 187 heart rate. I am smashed.
Yep.
Look at the group pull away.
And watch, you were right there.
I thought I was gonna roll into them like I did the rest of it, but I did not.
Yep. And then coasting, and you want to get on the power nice and early on the finish climb, keep that speed. You're already going 28 miles an hour, and you sort of roll into the gas about now.
Yeah. So there's a huge gap there, right?
Yeah, and then 1,000 watts.
Yeah, this is the sprint.
So I think if you could have got on the power a little bit sooner, you would have kept higher speed and you would have passed some of these guys sooner. Hopefully this rider right here, you would have passed maybe 18 inches before this. But it's okay. It's hard to flip the switch right at the end of a race to change.
Oh, go Nate! Oh no! Editing this video, I had to watch that like 15 times, the lineup stuff, and it hurts every single time. And I'm so 187. My heart rate's really high right now. I don't want to pass this guy mentally, and I've like given up mentally, which I don't like. He just flicked me through.
Yep.
He's also a very good sprinter and a very good descender. So I was kind of like, well, I'm probably not going to make it to those guys, so now I'm just battling for 4th place.
Yep. And as soon as you kind of write yourself out, it's hard. But they were only 30 feet away then, and now look, they're just getting away from you. But you decide to pass him.
This is where I saved my race, right? Because I passed this guy. So you saw he gapped me every other. This is Jeff. He gapped me every other descent. So by me doing this, he can't pass me anymore until the finishing straight. If you look in the back camera too, there is another guy who is a very good descender, and we had a good gap on him, but he totally shuts it down. So we're going to come out 3 of us on this last turn together.
And it's a good thing you've been practicing accelerating out of this corner, right?
Exactly. I'm really good at it by now. So I immediately start to sprint out of the saddle. I think my best watts that I've done in racing this year. And keep going. Boom. I beat them both. Hooray.
So now with 1 lap to go, it's pretty much Justin deciding how he's going to try and do this. I still think Justin's doing the right move. He can probably take that bottom corner the fastest, and so he's going to lead it out again, right?
Yeah, I was too tired. I knew I probably should have tried to get in front of him in this bottom corner, but I was too tired.
And it's hard on this downhill. It takes a lot more watts to get in front of someone on these fast downhills, and you have to get in front of him enough to be able to break into the corner, right?
Yeah.
And it's raining.
And it's raining. So just look how much he gaps you right there. Ooh.
And you gap the sprinter behind you. So now it's half a lap to go, and the sprinter's gone, and you have to beat Justin. Yeah. So you know that if you can get back on his wheel, that's your best shot, right?
Yeah, and you can see I'm going lots and lots of watts. This is, again, I thought this is my race right here.
And so as you come up onto him, this is that headwind stretch we were talking about earlier. So pretty much every second you're behind him, you're increasing your chances of winning. And he's going to have to really lay it into that climb.
But watch this. We're going to come up on a lapped rider who's still racing. And I don't get the ideal situation here.
Yeah, this is hard. Justin just barely makes it inside. You scream. And luckily, you don't give up. Right?
Yeah, I thought of the last videos we've done. I was like, I can't give up. I shift again. There's a line right there. Oh, I get to one last kick,
get him.
and I got it. And I was so happy because Justin's so fast and so good. So thank you, Justin, for letting me win. This is actually when you first watch this kind of sketch. Watch the guy on the right, getting pushed out of the curb. He almost crashes here. Boom, bobbles wheels. Kind of gets stuck in front of me. I don't get to open up my sprint. Where do I go? Now I get an opening and go, and so much bad led up to this Pete, though. Yeah. I think I end up getting 5th or something like that. Not a good result.
Yeah, not what you aimed to go for, right? So there's two things that could have gone a little differently. Jose should have actually ridden right next to the other lead-out train. Getting a half draft next to another lead-out train is better than going head-to-head, and it's much easier to kind of pace off the other person that way. So then the next thing is if you would have jumped directly onto this guy's wheel, and you're 40 seconds away, but remember it's more important than your average than your 800-meter attack is to be first through the final turn. So you have to meter in the effort to be first through the final turn and not necessarily adhere to your normal strategy of jumping with 800 meters to go.
Okay.
The other thing is, as you can see, your watts are sort of dropping. Yeah, you were holding 800 super strong. That's when it's hard for people to come around you. But when you're doing 500 watts, people can start to kind of get this last little bit. And as you watch 2 guys barely make it around you, and this is where you weren't guarding that left side of the road.
Yep.
You almost did. You just left just enough. And then if you would have really adhered, the guy would have had to come around you the slow side on the right and wouldn't have been able to make the turn.
Yeah, so 3rd place on that one. And it was right after he did a headwind section. So you're going to watch here. I'm going to go, and he gets a little surprised. And I think Pete is a little bit because this is normally where I pull through, so he's not expecting me to attack.
For sure. And as you come through and he sees you for that quarter of a second and goes, oh, Nate's pulling through. And then all of a sudden he realizes you're doing 1,200 watts and he has to get on the wheel. But he also took a nice hard pull with one lap to go, which is a little crazy to me, but you punished him for it, as you can see.
So the interesting thing is there's one thing about snapping at the end, like doing a quick snap and then holding it, but you really burned that thing for a long time. I mean, you stayed at 1,000 watts, then you dropped down to like 600 to 400.
Yes.
And look at how big the gap is. I can't see Scott.
So I looked behind me, and I was trying to break him because Scott has such a long sprint that I knew even if I had 10 seconds of gap on him, over 30 seconds, he could come back if he wanted to.
Right.
Mm-hmm. But then when I had the gap, I looked back, and he started looking behind him to see who's coming up. And as soon as he did that, I was like, oh, thank goodness. Because I was, you can probably hear in the video, I'm coughing and like had fun in my throat and dying. But it worked out. Really, on paper, I shouldn't have been able to beat Scott. So it kind of, everything aligned correctly to be able to surprise, go at my best power, and have him pull into the headwind and come around on the non-headwind side.
Now, one thing you might ask is why we didn't go with Scott. And really, it's always tricky. And one of the big things here is like team communication, because both of us thought, okay, Nate hasn't done any work. He's probably super fresh.
He's totally fine.
So we thought, you know what? In this case, Nate's got him.
this is when he realizes what's going on. And everybody is just about to come back to you, which is good, which means nobody can kind of jump you right at this moment.
Yeah.
But now that a couple seconds have passed, you can see Tim go in your rear cam, and you catch him, which is perfect timing.
Yeah, I was expecting it. That's
Yes,
his spot.
That's the spot. So you knew it was going to happen. You take this inside line,
He goes so wide.
and he goes so wide.
And it really helps me as I get to save a lot of distance and a lot of energy.
Mm-hmm. And even this much of a gap is still helpful to you. You can tell that you're closing in on him and making it happen.
And it's a headwind.
So right as he stands up to sprint, you hit it preemptively. So you get to make the choice of when the sprint starts. And look at that.
Bam.
Just dust everybody.
I know.
Yeah, you're 6 bike lengths away from the front of the race right now.
And that's hard to like cover that. So they start the sprint, and now I get stuck.
Yep.
Like I can't pass anybody. And you'll see my power goes from 800 down to like 400 as I don't have anywhere to go.
Yep. And lapped riders you guys are catching lapped riders. Oh man.
Yeah, it's chaos.
And so this is one where it's such a long sprint, so you can't actually totally uncork. You just have to keep following wheels and
Here's another guy slowing down. But on the right side, I can't go that way either because there's a lapped rider. I know. It's just hard. So right now I'm trying to just so I've obviously had bad position and I've lost. You can see up there are 3 riders ahead of me and how much space they had by being in the correct position and not getting boxed in. And I passed this rider. I got the Penn Velo guy ahead of me, and I'm gaining on him.
Yeah,
I think I
you're
might
getting close.
get him, but I don't.
Yeah. If this one was painful all around for
I
me.
know. I think if I was in a better position, second could have been in reach, although that guy's very strong. Third for sure. I ended up getting fourth.
But yeah, you almost caught him. I mean,
know.
you do a good job taking this line and then attacking up the side.
Well, we were going slow, like 23.
Yeah.
So I was like, "Oh, let's go!" And this is the last lap. You can see the field's reacting. Go across the end. Josh, the sprinter, jerk, has no trouble getting onto my wheel.
Just a mini sprint to catch on.
Yeah. This is the corner right clip, so I didn't do as much power in here as I probably should have. So Josh is on now, and I'm thinking, I know Josh is on. Just go.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, right? Second place is better than
Exactly.
last place because I think I'm going to get last place. This is the lapped rider coming up here. You watch my videos. This pet peeve, pull the lapped riders, please, because this gets a little scary. He comes in right as I come in. Like, what? Oh.
Yeah.
And Josh could almost hits him too. He also becomes an arrow draft for the people coming behind us. We come into the finish, and as we're going through, I'm trying to sprint, but I've got nothing. I should have done less attacks. Josh comes around me, easy peasy. I don't realize that Cognition is right behind me, and I let off a little bit, and then he nips me for... Not nips me. He beats me by a good amount for second place, but I think I got third.
Yeah, no, and that was really good.
I'm Nate.
And I'm Pete.
If you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up.
If you didn't like it, give it a thumbs down. If you would have done something differently than we did, let us know in the comments below.
If you want to see more of these videos, make sure you subscribe. And then if you want to become a faster cyclist and put more power out, make sure you go to TrainerRoad.com. Nailed it.
Finally.